Welcome back to Disney Inside Out podcast, everybody. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Andrea.
And we're excited to be back giving thanks for another direct-to-video Disney sequel.
What would we be without the historically accurate portrayal of this particular...
Exactly.
I don't mean to gild the lily. Right, I don't mean to gild the cornucopia right away, but boy, oh boy, Pocahontas II, Journey to a New World.
In that title says so much. Journey to a New World. Journey to a incorrect world? Or
Journey to an imperial world.
Yeah, Journey to an imperial world.
So you were thinking this would be a great, and I agreed, this would be a great straight to video for us to cover since Thanksgiving is coming up.
Yeah, I thought, we've done Cinderella 2, and I thought we should continue doing these direct to video sequel.
Yes.
Because I think they're just fun to do. There's so many episodes about our other podcasts or shows or talks about like the actual movies, but I do think the sequels are fun to talk about.
Oh, yeah. I ran into, when I was walking my dog today, I ran into one of the little girls that I nanny with her mom. And I was saying, oh, I'm on my way to record the podcast. We're going to be talking about Pocahontas. And my little girl didn't know who Pocahontas was.
She hadn't seen it.
No. And I was like, I'll tell you about it, but first I'll tell you the factual information.
Which
and then
will horrify you.
Yes. Yeah. I'll give her the version that she can probably stomach until she gets to like 8th grade.
Exactly.
Then she'll get more details at that juncture. But yes, Pocahontas 2.
Yeah.
Do you want to
Yeah, if you're
should we just jump in like how sometimes Pocahontas jumps off the top of a waterfall and survives?
Yeah, hits that water. If you're not familiar with Pocahontas, as whatever age you may be, Pocahontas 2, Journey to a New World is a sequel to the Disney film Pocahontas, which came out in 1995. This sequel was a direct-to-video sequel, which came out in 1998. It is a musical, like the original Pocahontas. Spoiler for Pocahontas, if you haven't seen it, but you may know the history. Pocahontas is the story of John Smith coming from England to Jamestown, meeting the Powhatan, or is it
I thought they were the Dakotas.
In Disney, in the Disney film,
oh, you're
tribe,
giving real.
I'm giving historically accurate.
My bad. Okay.
Depictions.
Actually, what you say, I'll just play for one of my girls so they can hear.
Just play my telling of it because I think it's accurate.
Dr. Wright is going to explain
I'm a
to you.
historian. I think it's I think they say Powhatan in the Disney film. I don't know if that's how it's actually pronounced because I feel like I've heard different. And again, there's other names, the tribe as well. Anyway, Disney has made it sort of a love story. Pocahontas meets John Smith. She's the native of the land. He's the settler. They fall in love. He has to go back to England. She stays, and that's sort of how the movie ends. So the sequel is picking up with, the settlers live in what is Virginia now, Jamestown. And Pocahontas is sort of the peacekeeper there. And this movie is not an accurate depiction of what happened next, but Disney is saying, like, this is what happened next. And that's she goes to England with another gentleman named John Rolfe, who was sent from England.
Johns.
Yeah, another who was sent from England to we'll get into the story of it. But she goes back to England. She's trying to acclimate. Her and John Rolfe fall in love. They they're going back to Jamestown at the end of the film. That's sort of a rough, version of the story.
Right.
And it's not in any way accurate, which I think is funny with this, that Disney would, I don't know how I feel, like they want to take something, and I like it because, like, yes, it brings awareness to the history.
Sure.
And kids are like, oh, who is Pocahontas? Like, what's the real story? But for this particular one, the story is so vastly different.
Yeah.
Really, like, the names are the same. And maybe the general, idea of what went on, but it's so different. I guess, they couldn't have done this as an animated film or the sequel so true to life because it wouldn't have been an enjoyable movie for children to watch because there's a lot more sadness. Also, the original Pocahontas was like 12 when she met John Smith.
I was going to say, didn't she feel like she kind of didn't have a choice? Like he semi-groomed her?
Yeah, and the whole thing is like, it's all of it, like what happened, the big scene in Pocahontas was that she saved John Smith's life from being like, look like, you know, the chief, her father is the chief, she's the princess.
Right.
Was going to like club him and she throws herself down. All of that was taken from John Smith's writings about what happened. And like the more I read about it, the more the historians and stuff say, oh, I don't think they were actually going to kill him. I think he was part of this ritual they were doing. I think he misunderstood like what was going on.
I see.
And she kind of, whatever she did, I think he interpreted as like, oh, she saved me. But she was just a little girl.
Yeah. Oh, God.
So.
Oh, my God. Well, it's interesting what they did. They were like, oh, including this information will be too much for children, but we will be sexualizing Pocahontas and all females in this any chance we get. They're like, that's okay.
Yeah, they do really like, they aged her up so much and like the way she looks. I mean, she's busty, stunning.
She's curvy.
But she's like, you know.
I definitely like straight up felt like I had a crush on Pocahontas,
the
Disney character, when I was younger, and like wanted to be like her. When you think back on how many little girls dressed up as Pocahontas for Halloween, and that I'm like, I don't think that's gonna happen anymore. At least
the same as like Mulan when that came out.
Oh God,
with so many little girls as Mulan and the geisha, like the geisha makeup.
Yes,
it was like, I don't think that'll happen anymore.
No. Men, you know, we'll move on to better costumes, you know, like when somebody dresses up as the old Fast Pass machine from Disney World, the paper Fast Pass machine.
I loved that costume. Let's get into the movie. I want to mention just the voice cast really quickly.
Yes. So some are the same, some are the
same, some are different. There's an interesting twist to some of it. So Irene Bedard is back as Pocahontas. Judy Kuhn is the singing voice. Amazing voice. Billy Zane is John Rolfe, which is hilarious to me. And he sings. We can talk about that later at the end.
It's really Billy Zane singing?
Yes.
Billy Zane is back on a ship again.
Exactly. Because I think this was post-Titanic.
It was around, Titanic, this is 98, right?
97 was Titanic.
97, right? Then they must have like...
I feel like this character is also in some ways... He's nice and he's sort of the romantic lead in this, but there are things about him early on that I was like, oh, he's just like Cal. Like, I feel like they're like, you can play a, you know, wealthy white man who, you know, privileged wealthy white man. It reminded me of that. David Augenstiers returns as Governor Ratcliffe. Love him. He's a voice in many Disney films. R.I.P.
Iconic.
Yeah, R.I.P. to him. Jean Stapleton is Mrs. Jenkins, John Rolfe's housemaid, who's in a different film, I feel like. She's
Stapleton
hilarious.
From All in the Family.
Yes.
That was really out of left field. I was like, do you need the check?
Yeah. I'm sure it was one of those things where she's like, this would be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she sounded like she was having a great time.
She was a breath of fresh air when she came on screen with her little glasses.
So there's two surprising ones. So John Smith is back, and I forgot about this. It's not Mel Gibson. It's Mel Gibson's.
Oh, no.
Yeah, oh, no. And it's...
Wait, come back, Mel Gibson.
Exactly. It's Mel Gibson's brother.
What?
Donal Gibson. He sounds just like him. Because when he first talked, I was like, oh, did Mel Gibson come back for this? And then I looked it up, and I was like, oh, that's right. His brother did it. And his brother actually had to audition, he said, to play his brother's part.
This is similar to Tom Hanks's brother. Basically has a career voicing Woody in like the I hate to say it, but smaller projects for Toy Story,
like video games and
or series.
Jim Hanks.
Jim, how does Mel Gibson's brother feel about Jewish people?
I know. I was like, are there similar? Like, are they the same? And I don't know. I don't really think he's done much.
Maybe. It's funny because when I was thinking, when we did the villains draft, I was giving extra points for characters that were voiced by now canceled people. And I would have loved to include John Smith, but technically how he was portrayed in this film. He's not a villain.
That would have been an interesting twist, though, to be like, here's a villain who's not a villain, but
Right.
could be
Right.
a villain. Like John Smith could be considered a villain based on what they really did.
Exactly. But yeah, you would definitely get I think you get an extra 2 points for Mel Gibson.
He's the gift that keeps on giving.
Truly, and I wish he would stop. That would be great. So what I will say, how this is different than Cinderella 2, if we're going to have some comparison, is that there's actual there's singing that's happening in the film.
Yeah, musical,
as opposed to a faux Mandy Moore that's singing over Cinderella 2.
Yeah, like in Cinderella, they did more like montage, like...
Right.
Like, let's watch the passage of time while this pop song plays.
Right. So I did find that fascinating.
Yeah. So my final voice character that was super surprising was Utamadomakin, which was the guide that Pocahontas' father sent with her.
Uti?
Yes, they called him Uti. Brad Garrett. And the thing is, I'm like, did he ever actually speak? He just grunted, I thought.
He would say, like there's something that happens when they go to the ball and he steals the jacket from the guy. I feel like he's like, this is my jacket, or something like that.
Yeah, but I was like, Brad Garrett?
I do love Brad Garrett.
But I was like, why this when he's so silent?
Well, that's like, and I hope we do it later on, is 101 Dalmatians, Pongo Goes to London. Is that what it is? It's something like that. It's a straight to...
Yes.
There are two characters. Oh, we were just talking about the Great Dane that the Dalmatians love to watch. We talked about it previously.
Patch's London Adventure.
Yes. Okay,
Patches.
it's not Pongo. It's Patches.
And...
Forgive me.
No. Thunderbolt.
So in that film, in the straight to video one, which I watched nannying another child, Barry Bostwick does the voice, but then he has a corgi sidekick, and it's voiced by Jason Alexander, who gives such corgi energy that I was like, legit.
You're right. I do see that. I'm like, I can hear and see that. Jason Alexander's a corgi.
And spoiler alert, he's a bad corgi.
Oh, a villain.
I like a little guy who's a bad corgi.
A little bad corgi.
A corgi who's got a great rump. Every corgi's got the best rump ever.
A great rump.
A great rump.
That should be his direct-to-video corgi. A great rump. Okay.
So,
well, let's get into the plot of this.
We open on foggy London town.
Which I was like, I don't know, something about the scene. I was like, this is such a like typical like, ooh, something's about bad to happen. The foggy London town.
Oh yeah,
like Sweeney Todd energy.
It's funny because like the animation itself was and just to mention, I decided I was going to watch Pocahontas right before I watched Pocahontas 2, and then I'm glad I did because I noticed some motifs that were throughout. Which I was like, that's good filmmaking. Okay, good job on that end, you know. But the animation here was feeling, especially at this juncture, the very beginning, I was like, this is giving Scooby-Doo shenanigans energy.
Yes. You're right. It is. You did bring up a good point that as opposed to Cinderella 2, which was made, how many years did we say? Like 50 years?
Yes.
This is only like 3 years later. So like it's still fresh. Like maybe even, I don't think any of the same animators or filmmakers might have worked on both movies, but it was easier for them to be like, oh, the first one was like this. So let's incorporate, that back into.
Right. So John is, okay. John Smith is informed that he's being arrested for treason in Jamestown. Then a parkour fight ensues around the town of London.
Yeah, I was like, wow, also my other question, I was like, how long after the first events of Pocahontas?
Right.
What, and I don't remember if I wrote down if I figured it out, because they are saying they're arresting him and he's like, oh no, you must be looking for Ratcliffe. So I was like, all right, is this just after? Because in the first one, Ratcliffe was the villain that they, were going to imprison. And I guess we figure out he got out of that. Well,
is the justice system as slow as it can sometimes be in the United States when it comes to white collar crime? I mean, exactly. You have to build a case for years,
Appeal.
Exactly. Exactly. But they're chasing after him. Mm-hmm. Radcliffe shows up.
Yes, he does.
Does he step on, like, it's like John Smith is like hanging off of, again, parkour style,
Yes.
like so hardcore. By the way, the girls at their school now, they have a parkour after school thing. Yes. It's like kind of like a Ultimate Ninja or American Ninja kind of thing, like mixed with they quickly step on these like triangle things. I just think it's adorable. And I just hear Michael Scott going, parkour, like, over and over again.
That's so funny they do that.
But something happens where like John Smith falls and is presumed dead.
Yeah, this scene, for some reason I thought of Les Miserables in this scene with falling into the river and like, I don't know, something about this whole thing. I was like, oh, this is very Les Miserables.
Oh, if I were a kid, I'd be such a sucker and think John Smith is dead.
Yeah,
but I know because I'm an adult.
They can't kill him the first 5 minutes. I also thought the way they opened this movie, I was like, they were really trying to get to the boy audience, like the guys fighting. And like, it's interesting sometimes the way, even in marketing certain movies and things like this, I can tell now and I'm like, they're really trying to be like, hey boys, there's sword fighting. It's not just, Pocahontas. Like they try to appeal to like the boy side too.
Crossfire. Yeah. John Smith getting caught up. Crossfire.
I love that.
I loved Crossfire back in the day. Crossfire. Oh my God. Crossfire.
So he goes into the river. We think he's dead. And then the movie kind of begins with the ship on the sea. Also, I was wondering, I don't think this is the first, but the production value, like I was like, oh, this is computer animation. Like it's kind of, you can tell when it's like not hand drawn and now they're like, the ship is computer animated on the sea, just the way it like moved.
Right.
And, the credits also say like Walt Disney Home Video presents, not Walt Disney Pictures. So you feel that like, oh, this
is a new house, bitch.
Yeah, exactly. You see the ship sailing towards what we know as Virginia, Jamestown. We go right into seeing natives. They're all winterized. I love that, like, the costumes are like, it just close enough, like Pocahontas just looks enough like her summer look from the first movie. Right. But now it's just like covers her neck and she's long sleeves and the shoes. And I was just thinking like, would they have worn that? I don't know. Maybe.
Probably not.
I was like, it's like her winter outfit.
They're like, we kind of want you to be warm, but we more so want to see your buzzies.
You still want to be sexy.
Yeah. We need to see the outline of your buzzies. Yeah. That would be great.
So let's imagine the animators are like, if you could just outline those a little more. Other than that, no notes.
But we got Miko. Miko's back.
Yes.
What's the pug's name again?
Percy,
yes.
Cute.
And then what is oh my God, I already don't have it. The hummingbird. Flint. Or Flit. Yeah. Flit.
Flint. They're like,
Flint. Yeah.
Let me start a fire with him. And Nakoma's back, her friend Nakoma.
Yes. Where she's like our Greek chorus. I'm like, this girl's got a head on her shoulders.
She always is like the voice of reason.
This is the role I would play, the best friend. Because this casting has told me, they're like, you're not the dark person or the person in turmoil. You're the person that has it figured out. I was like, well, great. I'll never be a lead then. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
But what time should I show up?
Yeah, but okay, I'll greatly take that role. Yeah. Thank you so much. But we're back in, and she's having feelings. She sings this song.
What do you think about this song?
It's okay, but also like as an almost 40-year-old woman, I was like, I feel this. Yeah.
I think this song is a great sequel song. Like for a sequel, like direct-to-video sequel, I was like, this song is pretty good. It's called Where Do I Go From Here? Mm-hmm. I should mention, the songs are written by Marty Panzer and Larry Grossman.
Those names sound very familiar. So
Marty just wrote Pocahontas II and Lion King 2.
Okay.
And Larry Grossman seems to have done a lot more Broadway. Yeah, his name does sound familiar to me too.
I will mention that apparently I fell down this rabbit hole real quick on the Wikipedia page, I meant to say it up top, but one of the co-writers of this now works with PragerU. If you know anything about Prager, it's a conservative education system that Florida just... It's named after, I think his name is Dennis Prager. Florida just instituted, and it has like wildly inaccurate, like revisionist history when it comes to like slavery, God,
and he co-wrote this.
He co-wrote this, and everything made a lot more sense.
I was going to say it makes sense. So you mentioned the animal sidekick.
Because what I think is really beautiful is the animals are there for Pocahontas.
Yes.
So when she is in her lows, and they want to be by her side, it is really beautiful. Like, it does add, like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it does add that thing of like, animals are such wonderful companions. They love you unconditionally,
They feel what you're feeling. They support you.
They think you're the coolest person that's ever existed.
Yeah. They're present during this song that we're talking about, which...
where she buries his compass that he gives her in the first film.
Which is like heavily engraved John Smith, like in big letters in the back. And I was like, was it engraved like that in the first movie?
Also, maybe you should have hung on to it because it would have been worth it.
Yeah, I was like, you might want to trade that.
But she's an indigenous person, and the earthly materials don't matter to her.
Yeah, I was confused when she did bury it. I was like,
because
why?
Does she know that John's dead? It seems like she's been told.
Yes, because Nakoma says to her, like, it's been, I forget, because that's when I was trying to figure out, like, how long has it been? I thought she said, like, oh, it's been months since news of John Smith's passing, because when he left her, he was injured on the ship in the first movie, and she said goodbye to him, and I guess she's assuming she's heard that he's dead.
I wonder if she thought it was the bullet, but like it actually turns out it was a parkour injury.
Yeah, she's like, it was the bullet, right? He's like, no, I just fell down the stairs.
No, I just did some like England ninja stuff, and then
I did Pilates too hard, and I just I killed myself.
I was on that reformer machine. So then she sings this song. There is a motif again. She's at the cliff where she says goodbye to John Smith. She is again at that cliff. Now it's snow covered, quite beautiful.
Same with the waterfall. That's where they met.
Yes.
So a lot of the locations show up.
And then am I correct that while she is at this cliff is when she sees the boat approaching?
Yes. Yeah. I think
the
at
ship,
the end,
pardon me,
the ship,
nautical lovers.
Yeah, the ship appears. And then we move to the Jamestown settlement, which I was like, this looks like a really nice place to live. I recently watched The New World. Have you ever seen that movie with Colin Farrell?
Mm-hmm.
And it's supposed to be a more realistic depiction of what happened with Pocahontas.
Do you recommend it?
If you like Pocahontas and that story, I do think it's worth watching because I do think things are depicted in a more realistic way that they were. Like the settlement, I was saying it looks so nice, but when they show the settlement, how it was, everybody's covered in like pox and it's dirty and like they don't have enough food. It's like a nightmare. But this was like, I was like, this reminds me of Belle's Village in Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, later on, there is a time in this film that will remind me greatly of Belle's Village. I think you know when.
Yes, I do.
Well, no, it's making me also think about in Liberty Square in Magic Kingdom, that if you see there is, in the middle of Liberty Square, there is a stream of brown, and that is supposed to represent sewage, meaning shit and everything else.
Yeah.
And I love that, like, they don't outright say it, but they're just like, there you go. I can't even imagine what it was like to live in those conditions. No. It's not, there are no vaccines then for the
they
pox
have all
that
these new diseases, things, and then they're running out of food. And there was a lot more like conflict with the indigenous people than it made it seem like they get along now. Like there was way more. And I think in the original story, they actually like kidnapped Pocahontas and held her hostage, and that's how she ended up with John Rolfe in the real. Like she was forced to like marry him, and they like assimilated her, and they're like, "You're going to be a white woman now,"
which is pretty on par with like what happened to. I'm sorry, gonna go to my soapbox. What has happened to indigenous people is that they put them in literal schools to reform their behaviors.
Yeah, they're like, let's civilize, like, you know. So we're back in the settlement. John Rolfe has arrived on the ship. That's who has come on the ship because he's here to work on the peace negotiations. He interacts with Pocahontas, but he doesn't realize who she is. He just kind of brushes her off as like, oh, you're not who I need to see, or you're not who I need to meet.
I do want to say that I wrote here, a ship is coming, so the whites run on over to receive them.
Yay, more white people.
But yeah, he does like dismiss her. By the way, he gets off the ship with a horse, and I just kind of love like a form of transportation coming off of another form of transportation.
I rode my horse onto the ship. The ship brought me, and now I'll ride my horse off the ship.
Also, Disney loves a redhead. John Rolfe is a redhead. I don't know if he was in real life, but they love them redheads. Like,
yeah, it wasn't interesting. I didn't look up what John Rolfe looked like. I'm not sure if he was a redhead, but I guess John Smith was blonde. So they're like, let's make him red because we can't give him a dark hair because then it'll look like Pocahontas.
Right.
Like,
then, yeah, people might think he's native.
yeah, we don't want to confuse. The other thing I was going to bring about Miko and Percy is I was like, what size are they actually? Do you notice that their size changes throughout the movie? Sometimes they're so small they fit in a helmet. Sometimes they're so big they are the same size as like the barrel. And I was like, how big are they? Like she picks Miko up sometimes and he looks like a medium large dog. And then other times he's like, you're not bigger than her foot.
Miko got his hands on some Ozempic and basically
throughout the film, he's like, I'm dosing on and off.
And then he gets to England and he's like, pastries, you know.
I can't help it.
So, okay, Billy Zane comes on out. There's a man with a full bag of biscuits.
Yes.
Who calls Pocahontas a filthy barbarian. Yes. Even though he looks very gross himself. I was like, sir, she looks pretty put together. Like, I know you're just saying this, but I like love when people are like, I'm gross, but I'm going to tell you you're gross. More gross
than me. Yes.
So he rips apart the hummingbird Flit because this man has been mean to Pocahontas, rips the bag of biscuits. And now, now Nico and Percy are fighting over them. The horse freaks out because horse is horse. Again, horse just being horse.
There's always one animal in these movies who actually acts like the animal that they are. Like,
and then they're mad. It's going to happen later on in this film too.
In a big way.
In a way where I might have cried a little.
Yeah, it is a really sad.
So the prince gets knocked off the horse. Sorry, he's not a prince. He's
not a prince. He's a man in power.
He
doesn't really have I don't think maybe he's like a captain.
A captain.
John Rolfe, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't, a young diplomat.
John 2.0. A diplomat. Yes. Diplomat. John 2.0 gets knocked off the horse. And then the bag of biscuits happen. Yeah. The guy who had the bag of biscuits, he almost gets run over by the horse, but Pocahontas saves him, yet he still insults her.
Yeah.
And then we see that the rest of the native people, they're hiding in the trees, like ready to strike. Totally in like, I guess, camouflage. Like they're,
Yeah.
So they're coming. They see this happening, that the biscuit man is what I'll call him. He's like, oh, I got my biscuits here. Yeah, that's like, thank you. I've been working on it. Please hire me. Yes. I'm very versatile. The native people, they see this and then they come to like kind of help Pocahontas, but Pocahontas keeps them at bay to establish her as a peacekeeper.
She's a peacekeeper.
Yes. And we can already kind of see that like John Rolfe is like flirting with Pocahontas like a little.
And he doesn't understand yet her role, her title, who she really is.
Mm-hmm. But we find out John Rolfe comes to this party that the native people are having and like interrupts it and like brings this horse in and is like, I have this horse for your leader. Where are they?
Yes.
And Pocahontas is like, it's Brittany, bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. She walks through the fire smoke. It's Brittany, bitch. Yes. That's when I think that's the moment when he's like, oh, you're Pocahontas.
John's like, oh my God.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So he wants to bring the chief back to talk about peace between England and Jamestown. He doesn't want to go. The chief's like, I don't want to go. But Pocahontas is like, I'll go. Right. I'll go in your place, like Mulan. So that's sort of the film's kind of kicks off with like she's going to accompany John Rolfe on the ship and go to London.
Eventually, this whole thing is coming to fruition. So she goes to visit Grandmother Willow. Who's got a little snow on her nose. And I was like, that's cute. It kind of looks like cocaine.
Yeah. She's like, let me tell you something.
She's like, I really want you to invest in Bitcoin, Pocahontas.
I've got some great ideas for the future.
But Grandmother Willow tells her, listen to her heart. And when Grandmother Willow goes back to just being a tree again, she does look like a Georgia O'Keeffe painting. Yes. And I was like, we've found the clitoris.
Yeah, it does. When she goes like back, you're like, what is that?
Maybe girls should watch this to understand certain parts of
You're
themselves.
like, this movie is not just about, Pocahontas. It's about growing up and what happens to your body.
It does, yes. Oh, and then that was my favorite part is when she goes back to just being the kind of the knot in the tree. It then does like a quick transition to a hole in a box going into the ship. It looks like a glory hole.
Yeah. I was like, what an interesting, like that transition. I was like, wow, somebody thought about that.
Yeah. They were like, oh,
this would be great.
It's going to be so smooth. Let me tell you.
I saw this once in a bathroom. It's all.
They're like, that hole is what made everyone get like, terrible TB or something like that.
That's where all the disease came
Yes,
from.
it came in through that little glory hole in the box. And then I wrote here, Pocahontas is studying abroad.
Yeah, it's the ship. First of all, the ship voyage, I was like, wow, that was so fast and easy. Because, traveling by ship then was like awful.
I thought you were going to ask me personally, like, oh, yes,
like,
tell me about it.
You remember your voyage to the Great New World. I think they did the animation where it was like, sun up, sun down, where it was like 3 days. And I was like, wait, it probably took a lot longer than that. And also everybody, like she had a new outfit when she got, I think she got off in her summer outfit because it's warmer now.
Yes.
She was like, I'm going to the tropics.
She's like, well, she's also like, I need to make these white people feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. Look at all the skin I'm showing. But I also was thinking, again, the season thing, or I hadn't brought this up, but it's like, okay, if it was winter there or like late spring or something or early spring, and now she's traveling there, it's supposed to be like warm there, but wouldn't it be the same?
I was going to say they're pretty much similar in
and
seasonally.
And I was like, so does that mean the voyage took months and the season has changed? Which is what I was thinking, but I don't feel like it was clear in the montage of them traveling.
This is again a way that we're not properly informing our children.
Right.
And PragerU is trying to tell us that that it's a flat earth theory.
Yeah. This is all subliminal advertising.
Oh, I wanted to say also, by the way, that when she's leaving the port from Jamestown, that her father is standing on the same cliff saying goodbye to her, that she was saying goodbye to. And I thought that was really beautiful. Just so I'm not a hater during this film, okay? I did notice another motif and I loved it.
Oh, when she said goodbye to Nakoma, they had the tear thing and they did that animation thing where like tear is just like one gloop of tear, but then nothing else, though.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, bloop.
Yep.
And I was like, interesting.
Quick cry.
Yeah, she's like, and I'm done.
And I'm done.
Yeah, that was sad.
So gotta go and survive.
We get to London and we have the next song, which I also think is catchy. It's kind of stupid, but this is the one we were mentioning, Beauty and the Beast vibes.
Oh, yeah. It's giving bonjour, good day, or Pocahontas.
Yes, it's called What a Day in London. It's very catchy, but very Beauty and the Beast. Like Pocahontas is wandering through the town and all the villagers are like, what? But they're also like, you're seeing all the different like people selling their wares and like the different occupations. And, it's all about her exploring almost like a Nightmare Before Christmas. What's this?
Yes. I will say, not only do they get to be racist during this song, they also slut shame her for what she's wearing.
Oh, yes.
There's a line that says, you mustn't stare. She's barely dressed. And I was like, oh, dear Lord. Here we go. It's going to be a great time over here in jolly old England.
I did love the lady. There was one lady that she was like, I wish I had her hair.
Okay, yes, we all wish that. It looks
her hair
thick.
is amazing.
It looks like a Pantene Pro V commercial up in there.
Also changes volume and length throughout the film.
There you go. It's also on Ozempic.
Yeah. Sometimes I was like, wow, that's a lot of hair that she has.
Oh, yeah.
Where did it come from? There's a huge tree in London, which I was like, well, I guess that could have been there. It's a very big tree, though.
It's the real Tree of Life vibes.
I was like Animal Kingdom. I was like, is that the Tree of Life? Or is that where the inspiration came from? But it's, I was like, was there a big tree? Like, I guess there could have been trees. Also, Shakespeare makes an appearance.
He does.
Which I learned was a thing that, not an Easter egg, but they were saying that it's possible. Again, we don't know the truth, but it's possible that Shakespeare and Pocahontas could have actually, like they were around the same time, but then other people say that he had passed away before she was there. Like, I don't know, but that was like a little Easter egg they put in, that they're like, oh, Shakespeare was around the time when Pocahontas was there.
Right. I thought you were gonna be like, and they fucked.
Yeah, they have kids.
Yeah. But yes, I did love that Easter egg. It was like a real Stan Lee kind of like cameo.
It was random. Like you're like, oh, Shakespeare, but
he's like, I'm here to promote my work as an artist, and good day.
Yeah, and then Gwyneth Paltrow came in and was like, watch Shakespeare in Love. So I feel like that came around.
It came out at the same time. Yes. We go to
John Rolfe's
his home, and Mrs. Jenkins is there, voiced by Jean Stapleton.
She was like a Miss Magoo. That's what she made me think.
Oh, yes.
Of. Mr. Magoo has bad vision.
I can't believe she's lived. She's made it this far without, meeting a terrible fate, like a parkour kind of fate.
Yes, walking off into traffic. And she has her signature catchphrase she says like throughout the movie.
It very much is like we see, she means well, right, Mrs. Jenkins? But she meets Uti, who, we don't mention, is shirtless this whole time, I believe. He refuses, except in that one scene where he puts on an ill-fitted jacket.
He was sent with the stick. And so that's a humor part of the song, What a Day in London. The chief gave him the stick and was like, make a notch for every white man you see. So he's constantly like doing that until he's like down
until he's got like a stake in his hand.
And he's there just to like protect Pocahontas and also like I think witness like what's going on with all the white men.
Right. It's kind of like, the muscle that like a mob guy like brings with him. Mrs. Jenkins is like, I'm going to make you some tea and sandwiches. He was like, tea and sandwiches. And again, it's like she's well-meaning, but she's like, we'll show you the right way to do things here. In the civilized way.
Yes.
It made me so uncomfortable is what I wrote.
Yeah.
Oh, she sings a song. Sorry.
No, yeah, she does. I was going to say, like, so she gets to John Rolfe's and they want to bring her to a dinner with the king.
Right.
And there's sort of the recurring theme of like a woman, like the King James he was like, I can't believe that a woman could be the ambassador. Like that's sort of another recurring thing. And in addition to the fact that she's different and looks different, it's also like the woman thing.
She can't win.
No, and so the only way that she can win is to get a classic Disney makeover. So
here we go.
Here we go with the montage makeover, but it's Mrs. Jenkins' song, Wait Till He Sees You.
Right, which is giving me vibes of like when Cinderella was making over Anastasia in Cinderella 2. The most egregious thing during this makeover is that Pocahontas puts lightning powder on her face.
And hilarious that she puffs her 2 times, but then suddenly she's completely
it's all
white.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that was amazing.
I was like,
makeup.
how do I get that full coverage foundation? So Pocahontas is being forced to do whiteface. And I was like gripping my couch. I could not believe.
But the PragerU guy, he was like, excellent.
He's like, yes.
This is the best part of the movie. He's like, we need to have a song for this part.
I was like, oh, wow. It really starts at the beginning when we let people know here's good people and here's bad people.
Like this to
right.
Be good. Even taking off her necklace.
Taking off her necklace and putting
the animals, I think they tell her, they try to be like, no, you have to keep it. But she's like, oh, it doesn't belong here. It belongs.
Right.
She says something like that. She knows what she has to do. And she's like, if this is what I have to do to get the piece, then I'm willing to go along with it. She learns how to dance with John Rolfe, which I thought she picked up very quickly.
She is a Jackie of all trades. This lady. By the way, can I just say, I forget where it is exactly, but Flit, at one point, the 3 animals are like having tea at the table, and Flit is doing that thing that like, you know how everyone in the 90s had that like bird little thing on their desk that like went down into the water and like dipped it. And there's a reference to it on The Simpsons as well. It like helps Homer press a button while he's like working at the plant. And so Flit is doing that. Yeah. And I did laugh out loud when I saw that. I was like, you silly goose.
Yeah.
Anyway, so The whole idea.
We discover too, Ratcliffe's going to be at the dinner, and he meets with this mysterious man. We're not sure who he is, and he's like, oh, it's going to be perfect, whatever. We're not sure what he's up to. So we know something weird is going to happen at this dinner to upset Pocahontas.
Could it be Ratcliffe is still a bad guy and is about to actually look even worse than he did?
Yeah, you don't think he can get worse, and he does.
Hang on to your butts, everybody. Yeah. It's about to get real bad.
So we get to the ball. This is where they're being announced as they walk in, and they tell Uti, they're like, oh no, the men must wear jackets, and he takes the page's jacket, I think, and he puts it on. And it's like a little tiny ruffled neck. Like,
it reminded me, if you've ever seen Tommy Boy, which is one of my favorite
guy
in little coat. Richard. What do you do?
Oh, Richard. I love that movie.
Take it off, dickhead.
Yeah, I love that movie.
I have that movie like almost completely memorized.
I think it's one of the top.
Oh,
fun. Chris Farley was amazing.
That song is, from what I heard, completely improvised, like on the spot.
I feel like the best parts of the movie were just Chris Farley's mind.
Just fucking with David Spade, yes. But it was giving me Fat Guy Little Coat.
Yeah.
I don't sing the song, but sometimes to make the girls laugh, I'll pretend like I'm putting on their jacket. And I'm like, will this fit me? Yeah, I teach them the greats like Chris Farley.
They're like Tommy Boy.
Like Grandmother Willow, Chris Farley also had cocaine on his nose.
Yeah, that's very true.
Okay, so he's cut as fuck, by the way, Uti. Like, can't believe, and so much so that there are ladies. Like, it was giving me Melissa McCarthy Bridesmaids when she's like, I'm going to climb that guy like a tree.
Yeah. You want to get in that restroom and not rest? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we're at the ball. We sort of just get... Pocahontas is uncomfortable. It's obvious. And the hardest scene to watch in this is they sit down to dinner. Ratcliffe's got this show. Things are not what they appear. That's the song. It's this weird magician man singing. Yeah. And it turns out they've got a bear chained up around the neck, everything. And they're doing...
And bear is bearing.
Bear is bearing. And they do this thing, and they call it bear baiting, which is a weird... I don't know why it makes me feel weird when they say the king's like, everyone loves a good bear baiting. And they're like, baiting the bear, like poking it, angering it, getting it all riled up, and they like to watch.
I'm like legit getting sad right now. Like,
it's really horrible, and it brings Pocahontas out of her whatever civilized quotes, behavior. She is like, no, you have to stop this. Like, she's doing what is right.
Also during this, I want to say that this is like a minstrel show, which previously is when white people would do blackface and do like quote unquote black voices. And it was giving the way that they were making fun of her and other native people. Yeah. But thank God girl snaps out of it. And she's like, you call me savage. Y'all are savages. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, this is disgusting, this poor bear. Yeah. As we've spoken before, like I cannot, like Dumbo or like Bam, I get like it's a visceral reaction. I am a vegetarian, and everyone knows that because I tell them whenever I get a chance to, like a good vegetarian. But I really try. I say this to my girls too. I say our job on this planet is that there are vulnerable animals, and it's our job to take care of them. Yeah. That is, like they find an insect out in the garden, and I say, this is this being's like living room. You're in this being's domain right now. Yeah. So you can look at it, but from a distance. Like, we're not going to smush it. We're not going to harass it, But that's just me slowly indoctrinating children every day.
Well, it's good. I mean, I think the movie is depicting it in that way of like, we should protect the animals, and this is wrong. And so that is the point of view that is being displayed here. And
we should be on Pocahontas' side.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's, even though it's interesting now I know about the writer's connection to everything, I'm like, well, they're still showing a correct, like that this is wrong.
Well, who knew what he believed previously? Because white men like to go where the money is. So maybe before it was profitable for him to be like more like liberal. And then he found that it was like, oh, actually, I'll just go over here because I can be bought.
Yeah, exactly. Disney money. that happens, obviously everybody's upset because they're like, Pocahontas, she's acting crazy, you know, like that. Another thing with women, it's like, she's crazy. So
she's such a wet blanket. You're such a bummer.
yeah, that's really like what they're like, you're ruining it. So after the bear incident, the king is mad. He arrests Pocahontas and Uti, puts them in the Tower of London.
Right.
John Smith hears about Pocahontas being back and that it's John Rolfe. He goes to John Rolfe and is like, hey, I know what happened. And they go to rescue Pocahontas.
Right. And then
the
way they do it is that John Rolfe pretends that John Smith is a prisoner that he's bringing in.
Exactly.
Right.
That's how they break into the tower.
Right.
And then
the reveal.
Yeah. And then they go back to John. I think they go back to John Ross or somewhere. They're like now fighting over her as to like, she loves me. No, she loves you. Pocahontas doesn't know what she wants. She flees through the forest in a Disney princess way. Her shoes are coming off. Her hair is coming undone. She runs to this wooded area, which suddenly looks like she's in Virginia.
Right.
And she has a sort of, come to Jesus with herself about like, you know what, this is not who I am. And she does that, what Mulan does, where she's able to just wipe her makeup off in one clean wipe. And she looks, I was like, wow, that was really good makeup remover.
Yes. I was like, I can't get my waterproof mascara off for days.
And her whole skin turns back to her natural. She reprises the Where Do I Go From Here song. And then she comes out of the woods in this like heavenly manner to John Rolfe and John Smith, where she's got the motif of the leaves. That's a big thing. The leaves always guide her to where she has to go.
The colorful leaves that surround
Colors
her.
of the wind. And her hair comes ironically with a little bit of wind that blows her hair out of place, even though all of the crap she did before her hair was in, like all the action she did before her hair was perfectly in place. But
it was the leaf magic.
Yeah, the leaf magic blew her hair out of that style, which gave her way more hair than I thought she had. I don't think she chooses between the two yet.
No.
When she comes back to them, I think is when she's like, no, I want to try to like make peace and stop this war. And she wants to like confront the king. And
let them know that Ratcliffe is a dirty liar.
Yeah, because Governor Ratcliffe had lied to the king and was like, John Smith's the traitor.
Right.
He's dead now. And so in revealing John Smith's alive to the king, they're saying like, oh no, he's lying about everything. I guess that's just that's the straw that breaks the camel's back. The king's like, oh, you lied about John Smith? You're lying about everything. Right. And that's sort of like what their plan is, like to reveal.
They were like, yada, 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 Ratcliffe's in jail now.
Yeah. It gets a little messy. But there was another fight on the ship and it was raining. And I was like, bad things happen when it rains. That's how I feel like it's like always starts to rain when there's a bad fight.
Yes.
Pocahontas is back in her summer outfit.
She's back. She's like, this is me, 100%. I'm not doing that shit again. And we're going back to Jamestown, baby.
Yeah.
And John is like, so we're to go. Sorry, let me be specific. John Smith is like, so we're together again? Or like, remember when I got shot and stuff? And you were like real sad. And like, where's my compass also? And she's like, I buried it like a time capsule, like an 8-year-old would. But then I dug it up 2 days later because I couldn't wait for it.
I couldn't stand being without it.
He takes it like when she breaks up with him, he takes it like pretty well. And I was like,
which shows you made the right choice. Not that upset.
He's like, I'm going to go to the Pig and Whistle and find me a wench. It's okay.
She's like, sure. Yeah, she decides to go with John Rolfe. She wants to go back to Jamestown. But John Smith is like, no, if you come with me, we'll be exploring everywhere. But
you can climb a tree again.
And she's like, I'm good. And so the movie kind of ends with John Rolfe going back with Pocahontas on ship and they're in love. And
they smooch.
They kiss. And then there's the love song Between Two Worlds, sung by Judy Kuhn and Billy Zane.
Oh.
That plays over the credits of, 90s power love ballad.
That's what kids love. A 90s power love ballad. To sum it up, I think this is a fun sequel. I thought some of the songs were really good. Mm-hmm. It's fun to see the characters again. I think because it's made so closely to when the first one came out, it still has the same feelings and motifs like you were saying. I think they do a good job. I mean, it definitely
visually looks like a Saturday cartoon, like the animation's always kind of scaled down budget-wise, I would recommend watching these if you love Pocahontas. It's always fun to just see the characters again. So thanks everybody for listening, and we'll do another one of these, another fun sequel. If you have an idea of one you want us to do, you could let us know on Instagram at Disney Inside Out Podcast. You could comment. You could send us an email, disneyinsideoutpodcast@gmail.com. I never mentioned the email, but there is one. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you real soon.
Yeah, bye.